only opening you will ever need to beat anyone under 2000 elo. Always play d6, you don't care what they play, e4, d4, c4. Then the next step, you're trying to make this move e5 possible. At f6, the knight to d7, if they try to stop that like that, but they cannot really do that. So you play the move e5 anyway, and then you're ready to play bishop e7 and castles. The beauty of it, you can play it against absolutely everyone and absolutely everything. By the way, I have an entire opening course based on this exact system, as well as a complete opening repertoire for white, all in one course. And on top of that, you get a full month of live coaching with me for free. Check it out. The link would be in the description, all in one course included. So you castle, and then the last move to remember, the move c6. The 7 moves, you basically can play against whatever your opponent is doing. This is the beauty of it. And then you just need to understand the key ideas. It's not about memorizing all of those lines. It's not going to help you because your opponent can do so many different stuff. By the way, we play against 23-17, 100-rated opponent, very strong one. Yet the opening works perfect against even such a strong opponent. And one idea is to attack here on the queen side. Another one is to play in the center. And you use both of those depending on what's going to happen on the board. I think here we can just try with the queenside attack. Don't care about this bishop. A lot of players are like, well, what do I do with the bishop? I struggle with it so much. Just don't worry about it for the time being. It's going to be developed much later in the game. Now we need to create some counterplay. Counterplay is essential in chess. Without it, you cannot really achieve anything. And another key principle, golden one you use in every single one of your games, whenever your opponent makes a move, try to think, what is this threat? I can continue with my move b5, but then he's going to take and win the pawn on e5. I cannot allow that. So I just play queen c7. The queen is very good in this opening here. And at the same time, I defend the e5 pawn. I go away from the spin, solving all of my problems, and b5 is still coming. Let's see. My opponent can try to stop it with the move a4, or just ignore it and do something else, continue his development. This opening saves you so much time because you make the moves more or less automatically once you get used to it. You are gonna watch this video, more videos in the playlist I have on this channel covering all different setups, all different variations your opponent can try. Of course, you can also take the course to dive 1000 times deeper, but to start, you don't even need that. You simply learn these few basic ideas and you can already play it, see how it works for you, how your opponent struggles. Seems like he has the center, but he doesn't know what to do. He's completely lost in terms of his plans. Also, because it's not a mainstream opening. I never want to play mainstream openings because your opponent has so much experience in that. But if you play that in every single one of your games, then you understand the position so deep, so well, whereas your opponent has no idea how to handle it. He sees it maybe once out of 1000 games, 100 games, whatever. b5 is coming. That helps you to save time for later stages of the game, where it's really going to be crucial. The middle game, the end game, where we make most of our blunders, you are going to have much more time than your opponent. h3, all right. That doesn't, probably he wants to play bishop e3. I always think what's my opponent's idea once he makes a move. However, it does not create any threats for us, so I go for b5. One thing to remember, you don't want to blunder your pawn. So if he takes, I have to take with the c pawn. Otherwise, he's going to play knight takes b5, using the pin and win my pawn. Don't allow that. And talking about this bishop, you were worried that it's not going to have a good place to go. Well, now it could go to b7, and potentially, for example, after takes and c5, it's going to be extremely sharp and active along this long diagonal. But it's still a long way. We don't need to do everything at the same time. We can play that, we can play rook e8, where it's going to be very good. We can play rook to c8 or d8, depending on what's going to happen. We always have something useful to do, some interesting ideas to execute. We We almost never have a situation where we don't know what to do next. All right, he plays b4, which is a very interesting try. He wants to stop me from going forward. Otherwise, I can think of b4 myself. And maybe he wants to play c5. Although I don't think it's a good idea. I can take on d4, then on c5. And if he takes himself, I'm going to take it back. That's all good. I can play rook e8, bishop b7. All of the moves are very useful. I'm going to start with rook e8. You can even play bishop f8 so that the rook is opened, and then think about takes and attacking that pawn. Sometimes even such an idea like a5. By the way, I could have played it immediately, maybe, with an idea to take. If he takes, then we play b4 anyway and pick up the pawn later on somehow. But you have to calculate that. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure about that. Then there is an annoying pin. Maybe not now, but a very useful idea to know. c5, never afraid of it, just take it. He takes, and everything is hanging. I mean, not a problem at all. Otherwise, yeah, I can develop my pieces later on. So you can always take on d4. It's never a big problem. You just need to find the right moment to do that. Or, yeah, your opponent plays d5, then you don't take it anymore. Maybe he thought, well, I'm smart, I'm going to use the fact that you played rook e8, and this move, of course, helps if we take and this is opened, but if he plays d5, then the rook is stuck here. But d5, yeah, is also not something you really want to do as white, because now this file is going to be opened. You don't have any tension in the center anymore, which is great for us. We have this nice b6 square for the knight later on. And by the way, then this bishop has this diagonal to be developed as well. Let's see how he takes. If he takes with the pawn, I'm going to just win on c4, so that's not an option. He takes on b5, I can just play d4, winning the knight. It's also not an option. If he takes with the knight, that is possible, but I can just take it back, and he cannot take with this pawn because of the pin. Yeah, so he takes with it immediately, but that basically solves all of my problems. Now I have this knight b6 move, where the knight has a very nice spot on c4, or, yeah, somehow creating problems here. I don't want to play bishop b7, because I think it's going to be stuck there anyway, so I rather prefer to play knight to b6, and then maybe bishop d7 and rook c8. And he probably is going to develop the bishop somewhere and rook to c1. However, if you play bishop e3, for example, I do have this move knight c4 immediately attacking it, and then you have to give up one of your bishops for this knight, which is not what you want to do. Even knight to a4 in some variations is an idea using the pin, so my opponent has to be careful here. Notice that I almost haven't spent any time yet, just because I understand the ideas very well. And that's exactly the result you can expect after going through my course, where I cover all of the lines that can happen and what you can do against it. But I always base it not on the concrete variations, not that you memorize everything. It's not going to help, especially if you're under 2000, but rather I base it around the ideas, the key ideas, like in this type of positions, you have this and that and that, and then you choose from that depending on the concrete situation that happens. And in other type of positions, you have a different set of ideas. And the more those ideas you learn and understand, the simpler it is for you to play, because you always know what to do. Even knight takes e4, by the way, the move I completely ignored so far, is an idea here. You cannot take back with the knight, the queen is hanging. And if you take back with the queen, then the knight is hanging. I can just pick it up. Yeah, for example, here, it's something I really have to think about. One problem, well, here I cannot do that, actually, because queen takes, and then my knight is hanging. That was possible against other moves. For example, bishop g5, maybe. But here, you remember, I had another idea, to play knight to c4, attacking this guy. If he takes, Yeah, I have to be a little bit careful with my queen, but I don't think there are any problems he can create for me. It's not like, yeah, I'm required to play knight c4. Bishop d7 is also a completely fine move, followed up by rook c8, or maybe even this rook to c8. But knight to c4, I have to admit, is very tempting. All right, let's start with bishop d7. I always advocate the development approach. If you have a choice between developing a new piece and making another move with the piece that has already been developed, always try to develop new stuff. The more pieces you activate, the more chances you're going to have to crush your opponent. So rook c8 feels very powerful. This bishop might even be relocated to b6 one day, and there it's going to be very, very powerful. Or just, if the bishop is still there, just exchange it against that guy, because, well, his bishop is more active than this one, and our pawns are on the dark squares, and then we solve all of our problems. Another idea sometimes might be here to play knight to h5 and knight f4. But you have to be careful with it. There might be knight takes e5 and bishop takes h5. So not always it's gonna work. All right. Queen to b3. Yeah, I think just rook c8. Why not? Attacking the bishop. Probably he wants to play rook c1. But I can even just step away with the queen. Because if I play knight to c4 immediately, well, there might be some kind of pin. Although, wait, if you go away with the knight, then I'm gonna grab that pawn. That's something you can do. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. Knight c4. I think the time has come. So again, if knight to here, or even, yeah, knight a4 is possible, with an idea that if I take it, he takes here. But anyway, I'm gonna just capture over here. Maybe not, because knight b6 suddenly suddenly possible. Yeah, I think after knight a4 I should just take it. Queen takes, and in the end of the day I'm gonna pick that pawn for free. And here I can just take with the queen. Taken with the pawn I don't really like, because the pawn is blocked and maybe then it's going to be attacked. That should be still fine, but I really want to take with the queen. Now I'm attacking a lot of guys here. If he takes, this is just a dream for me. I'm gonna just take it back with the rook. I mean, at least I solved all of my problems. Of course, my opponent can still continue playing, but like all of those pawns again are hanging. If he goes away with the queen, I'm thinking if I can be greedy and take that pawn. The only problem is my queen, whether I can lose it. Maybe I can, because he plays knight to e2, attacking it, and then I don't have any spots to go away. With that, I have to be careful. Okay, he plays that immediately. It makes sense, because now the e4 pawn is protected. But I can still just take, and after knight takes, play rook to c4, again attacking all of those pawns. Then I need to be careful with my rook not to lose it. So takes. I play rook c4, knight back to d2, rook takes b4, a3. The only move is rook b2, but can you win that rook on b2? Those knights are here, you cannot even attack it. Yeah, I think that should work for me. Anyway, I don't want to go back, because the knight takes b5 with the discover attack is really huge. Queen to d3, well, at least he can go back, and then I cannot play for a win. I'm gonna take it. And rook c4 was my idea. If you play knight to a5, I'm gonna still take it, right? a3, rook b2. Yeah, I don't see how you can win my rook. I understand it's a little bit scary, but if it works, then it's extremely active, because I'm gonna play second rook to c8 and be very active there. My opponent is trying to calculate all of those lines, and of course it's very important. It's a crucial moment, because if I can just play rook to c8, attacking that knight, and you have to go backwards, well, you even get all of those problems. Everything is hanging now. It's not like he can just tolerate all of that. He has to play very actively. And this is the best strategy that you can use in chess to put as much pressure on your opponent as possible. We have used this magic opening, the old Indian defense, as a foundation to create those problems for black. And now we just continue using those opportunities. Sooner or later, he's going to be in total time trouble. And then, yeah, those problems, they just explode as a snowball. And he is not going to be able to solve all of that. Okay, he finally plays knight to a5 after a long thought, which is what he should do, very active move. But my idea was to take it. Let's see if he has something. Of course, I'm threatening to play knight takes e4. Even, well, have to still think about that. No, here it's okay, because I also attack the rook, that would be fine. Knight takes e4 is a threat. Maybe I also want to play bishop d8, just attacking this guy, which has no defenders now. I always want to play rook c8, fighting for the open file. Rooks love open files. But first, my opponent has to prove that he has some compensation. Otherwise, I have just won a pawn for nothing. I'm very active, no problems. So the only chance for him is to create some troubles for this rook, which is, yeah, a little bit stuck. Okay, he plays f3, stabilize the situation over here, which is important, I agree. But that gives me time. I can play rook to c8, for example. a3, just rook b2. I mean, my rook on b2 is actually very strong, and I don't see any way to attack. So it's out of trouble. Then let's go for it. Important is, of course, that my rook is protected. And then I have to do something about those pieces. They are pretty passive. Okay, he plays knight e2. I think his idea is to take, exchange, go get here with the rook, attacking everything. This is quite annoying, I agree with that. I mean, I would be happy to bring my rook back to b8 right now, but that is not possible. I can play rook a4, attacking this guy and this guy. He wants to take and play rook c1 regardless of that, I think. It's not the end of the world, because even if he takes and then plays rook c1, I can just go back to d7 where this bishop is protected. And meanwhile, I'm attacking all of those guys. I can play knight c6. Yeah, that is annoying, because I don't want to take it and create this passer for him. Maybe instead of that, I'd rather play rook to b2 attacking that guy, because if this one wants to go forward, then this one, he's just gonna waste time with it. Maybe actually rook c8 was not the best idea, because that helps him. Somehow. Okay, let's just take it and play rook b2. Because here knight c6 is quite a big threat that we cannot ignore. So let's play that. Rook c7 is not a problem. We're gonna just take. Knight c6 here. Probably just king f8. We bring our king closer. We are always happy to trade it, no problem. So strategically, our position is winning here. We have an extra pawn, everything is good. But tactically, our opponent has some activity, and we have to deal with it. Solve our problems. Yeah, here I can just take the pawn, the second pawn. I don't really see any problems with it. I might even just start pushing those pawns. Maybe not necessarily to just win the game immediately, but to deflect my opponent. Like he cannot attack that easily, because he has to think about those problems. Okay, first, of course, defend the bishop. If he ever plays here, I'm happy to exchange it. The knight on g3 is actually completely useless. I can even play g6, and then it can never go forward. Sooner or later, if I bring my king even closer, I might think about taking it. As I can block the pawn, it's not going to be dangerous. But I have to combine that with the move g6 to stop that knight. Okay, that is why he plays knight to b8, trying to create some problems. Right now it's a threat. He wants to take and then play rook to c8 check. So I just want to play king to e8, just like I wanted, to bring the king closer. Maybe he wants to play rook to c7. Maybe he should. That's very active. No, he just takes. But now I thought I'm just taking with the king. And the more pieces I exchange, obviously the simpler it gets because my 2 extra pawns would matter even more. Yeah, rook c7 is obviously quite an annoying thing, but I can stop it. And I have 2 ways to do that. Bishop d8 is the most active move because not only I stop the idea from my opponent, I also create a threat. And I want again to exchange, especially this bishop. Remember, I told you this is not the most active one, so we are happy to exchange it against this active piece. Maybe he wants to take and play rook c6, but this is all nothing. I mean, king d7, and the 5 is a little bit annoying. And the second move is to play knight to e8. Actually, yeah, I can just start with it. Because I cover absolutely everything. I don't have any weaknesses. If knight here, I can even play g6. And what's more, I can even one day play bishop g5, activating my bishop. Because basically, as long as I deal with all of the threats, I'm ready to just push my pawn. That's gonna win the game. Here, I was even thinking just play g6. If you want to take, no problem. We're gonna exchange rook c8, who cares? You only have the rook and the bishop, not enough to create really dangerous threats. I'm gonna play b4, b3. Or I can also play bishop g5 first, pushing the rook somewhere. Probably c6 is the most active square, but I don't care, just play g6. And you cannot take here, knight takes. Rook c7 check, well, just king e8. It's certainly not enough. Yeah, bishop g5 going up by g6 is very tempting. Let's go for it. Not to go. So I think about my opponent's counterplay, and I do my best not to give him any chances, because it's never too late to spoil your game. You have to be careful with your opponent's threats. And it's also his only chance. He has to create that desperately that counterplay. Otherwise, you're going to just lose. d6. I basically need to survive one move. If he goes backwards somewhere, then the attack is over and the game is over. But maybe he can sacrifice here, rook c7 check. But again, just king e8. Rook c8 is not possible. Yeah, that's an extra piece. He doesn't have enough activity. Wow. It is also sacrificing the knight, but somehow differently to get to c7. That might be actually better, because he wants to give me some kind of a perpetual check. This is tricky, I like it. So king e8, he plays rook to c8. I play king e7. Bishop d8 might have been an idea, but just king d7 attacking his rook, so that's not going to help. And if rook c7 check again, then I can play king to f6. No checks for now, but maybe he wants to go away and threaten bishop d8 checkmate. That is quite significant. Interesting. And yeah, I have to do something about that. Because it feels pretty annoying. Wait, knight takes, rook c7, king to e8, rook here, rook to king to e7, rook back to c7, king to f8. And if the rook goes back, then I have knight e8 blocking that. So I just, all I need to do is just hide on f8 with my king. Let's go for it. I don't believe it can be that dangerous. Very important is, of course, that here bishop d8 is not a move. Just king d7, attacking the bishop, the rook. So the only active move he has is that. Or maybe go away with the rook and prepare the move, bishop d8, check. Yeah, somehow go away with the rook and prepare bishop d8 check. But remember, I am a piece up. Even if he does win a piece back, well, he's still 2 pawns down. I can actually even push those pawns. Maybe that's a smart strategy to play knight e8 here and just trap this rook. I mean, I cannot win it, but it cannot go away. Like knight e8. Ah, wait, knight e8 even stops bishop d8. Then it's just the best move. Now he cannot do anything again, and he resigns. So I hope this was instructive. This is exactly how you crush anyone with the Old Indian defense here. In this playlist, you can learn more about it, and don't forget to take a look at the amazing offer. The link is in the description. Full opening repertoire, both for white and black, all in one course, and a month of live coaching with me on top of that included.